So I watched Dune Part 2 and it was very good. Top 10 highest rated movies of all time? Not really, but it was still great regardless. This is spoiler free, but I might say a couple of things that could possibly ruin the film. I won't discuss twists and I'll try to be vague about everything. So yeah, watch Dune 2 if you want. Let's get into it. This is absolutely the best looking film of the year and it's going to destroy the Oscars for visual awards just like Part 1 did. I mean, this is kind of a given for all of Dennis's last films. Like, I've said this before, but Blade Runner 2049 is literally the best looking non-animated film out there. I still think Blade Runner 2049 looks better because he's able to go absolutely insane with the visuals and backgrounds because of how many areas there are in Blade Runner 2049. But with Dune, it's just kind of a big desert, so he's not really able to do a ton with the visuals. But with the limited kind of boring environment he has, he's able to make it look absolutely breathtaking. I could say the same about Part 1, but in this one, they pushed the visuals so much further. Obviously, they also pushed the story further, but visually and sound-wise, this movie gets pushed so much. Like that certain scene with the big fat worm is so intense and so awesome at the same time. They make it slow and have such a loud build-up, and it's just magical on a theater screen. The visuals are incredible. The little pounder things that trigger the worms make this really intense sound that makes the whole thing just perfectly intense. I mean, sometimes the sound is weird, like having echo in a desert. That doesn't really make sense, but besides that, the sounds and visuals of this movie are incredible. Almost every shot in this movie is great visually. That final fight with the swords, god damn, it's so awesome. Just jaw-dropping how beautiful it is. Bad comparison, but look at the sword fight in the 1982 version of Dune. Like, compare the two of these shots. Like, imagine if this is the version of the story we were stuck with. It's a night and day comparison. Anyways, this is obviously the best part of the film, so let's get into the kind of issue section. Okay, so this is probably a hot take or whatever, but I really don't like the dialogue in this film. This also applies to Dune Part 1, but I feel like in this movie, it's not as big of an issue than it is in Part 1, because Part 1 is a lot more dialogue heavy, while this movie has much more action and exciting moments that drowns out the pretty lame dialogue. It's also much better and well put together compared to Part 1. The dialogue can really just drag at parts. It has the same issue I had with Oppenheimer, where the dialogue just drops so many names at once to the point where I can't follow what's going on. Movies with dialogue like this only really work with subtitles where it's much easier to follow. The dialogue is really just a personal peeve of mine though. On rewatch, it might click with me more, but for now, I just really got lost halfway through not knowing what's going on. It really ruins part of the film for me. Because of the kind of weak dialogue, I actually really like how much they switch to the separate language the people in this movie talk during certain scenes, because it just makes it easier to follow with the subtitles. I don't know, I just think having subtitles would add so much more to this movie and would make it so much easier to follow. So when I rewatch this movie, I'll do it on digital with subtitles and it'll probably fix the issue. For most of the movie, it isn't really that big of a deal, but towards the 2-hour mark, it really starts to lose me. But luckily, none of these dialogue issues really apply to the last 50 minutes, and the last 50 minutes themselves are absolutely incredible. Yeah, so once Paul gets his speech and becomes a leader, which is basically the last 50 minutes, the movie just becomes incredible. I love the main villain, or the person Paul has to fight at the end. He's really scary, and Austin Butler does a great job playing him. The visuals hit their absolute peak. There's some insane shots here, like that final sword fight. As said before, this is absolutely insane seeing this in theaters. Like, again, look at this shot-to-shot comparison. Look what it looked like in the 1982 version, and look at the new one. This is truly the best way to explore the Dune story, and some of the most beautiful shots of the entire year, and honestly, some of the best shots of all time. Like, what worked for the first 2 hours of this film really hits its peak here. Like, the sound is intense, the visuals are breathtaking, it's all just fantastic. Obviously, the ending is incredible too. I mean, it's part of the book, so if you know the book, then you know the ending. But it's still just a great way to end the story, and the 1982 version doesn't even do this unless you watch the director's cut, but that doesn't count. That doesn't matter. This is the real Dune. This is the real Dune story. The last 15 minutes are just so great. It's so good. Anyways, yeah, this is a great film. I really hope it's not the best movie of the year, because it's not the best thing ever made, in my opinion. The dialogue is still kind of messy, and there are weird moments, but in general, it looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, and it has an incredible last hour or so with a solid first 2 hours. So yeah, it's nice to see an actually good movie this year. If this came out in 2023, there would actually be nothing good this year. So yeah, anyways, I'm going to give Dune Part 2 a solid 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching, and this is an epic outro.